Welcome everyone. Welcome to this session on performance options for Windows. Let's get her started.
Welcome to Canada. Welcome to punishing winters and scorching summers. To weathered coasts, rainforests, and permafrost. Our home breeds tough. Crazy tough. Adaptive don't. 60 below won't be bargained with. This environment demands different thinking. You can't suppress it or shape it, but you can respect it. Respect will get you everywhere. And with respect to the way things were done, times change. And Canadians change with them. Our reality is harsh, but whatever comes our way gets handled. We work thematically. We innovate, and we lead. Welcome to the unpredictable True North. Brace yourself.
Okay, well, welcome again, and thank you for participating. We hope that you are all safe and sound in this new COVID world. Let me start by introducing myself, Lisa Bergeron. I'm Director of Business Development for JELD-WEN Canada. So my role essentially is to represent JELD-WEN in all of the trade associations. I'm a voting member of the CSA 440 standard, and I'm also the AMA representative for the JDMG, the Joint Document Management Group, for the NAF standard for fenestration, and I'm also a member of NRCan's Windows expert team for their market transformation initiative. I'll let Jeff introduce himself.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. I'm Jeff Pigeon, the Canadian Product Line Manager for our Windows and Doors in Canada. I've been with the company with JELD-WEN since 2013. Basically, in my role, I'm responsible for the development of our products, both windows and doors across Canada.
So as you can tell, COVID has afflicted us differently. My hair has grown during the COVID, but Jeff has not.
I'm actually hoping once this is all done, we're vaccinated, maybe my hair will grow again.
No, it may be a side effect of the vaccine.
I'm hoping.
That's good. So today we're going to talk about the impact of weather on building practices and window performance. We're also going to talk about what's the difference between a program and regulation. We want to see what the changing requirements or the consumer demands on window trends, and also then review what JELD-WEN products are available and how our products are responding to a changing environment. We're also going to talk about the tools we've developed to explain to you, to help you explain why performance windows are important for your customers. As we mentioned, as Erin mentioned earlier, we do have someone monitoring the chat and the questions. Jeff and I will be going through the presentation, and we'll have our colleague Alex then ask us the questions at the very end. So if you have questions as we go along, feel free to type them in the Q&A. But we'll handle those at the end there. So Canada is very diverse, as you can see from this heating degree day map. Essentially, we run from very mild weather on the west coast where lower mainland sees barely any winter, to Arctic and subarctic conditions where winters are very, very long and very, very harsh. From that you also have a gamut of different wind loads that go across the country. It's very windy in St. John, Newfoundland. It's pretty much one of the windiest places, or Newfoundland, the windiest places in Canada, and that changes again very regionally. So we wanted to put this map up to show, again, this is straight out of the building code, and it essentially aligns all the energy codes are aligned with this heating degree day map, and essentially clumps Canada into 3 large energy zones for code, for a code perspective. From a code perspective, so zone 4 and 5 are lumped together, 6 and 7A are lumped together, and 7B and 8 are lumped together as well. But this shows us that as a manufacturer, we have to make sure that we have product that meets the performance requirements for all these zones. And while that is a challenge for us, and sometimes leads us to offer product that exceeds requirements in some jurisdictions, it's also an opportunity for dealers to offer something that's actually better than their minimum requirements in their region. Climate change has a huge impact on building standards, and we just saw last week, I believe it was, or the week prior, I think it was last week, that 2020, among other things, had been the warmest on record. Climate change and global warming is I think for most Canadians, something that's very real. We've all been impacted, whether it be through floods, forest fires. It's been, we're all impacted by climate change. And so NRC decided a few years ago to start building in climate change into the codes. So it's called resiliency, building code resiliency, and making sure that anything that codes going forward will take into account some changes or climate change, so that we don't experience problems with new builds. So it's already has impacted some sections of the code, and as windows are part of the building envelope, so it's not only from an energy perspective, but also from a structural perspective, windows will likely be impacted. So these are things that we expect to be into the code by 2025, and we'll keep monitoring that, and also those things are likely to also change as time goes on. So now we get into a little bit about regulation versus program. So, I mean, it's quite simple. A regulation is an act, it's law, it's mandatory. So the building code is an act, the Building Code Act. The building code itself, the National Building Code, is a model code. It's adopted by jurisdictions that don't have their own codes, and jurisdictions that have their own codes are always modeled on the National Building Code. So they choose to adapt their code to essentially reflect their regional needs, but the essence is the same as the National Building Code. And I would also like to say that there is a memorandum of understanding for all provinces and territories to go to a national, not a national code, but to harmonize in the future. You know, I think that's probably something that builders and building officials and manufacturers are pushing hard to, because it's very difficult for a manufacturer to stay on top of all the different regulations in the different jurisdictions. But that is an initiative that has come out of NRC and that the provinces, for all intents and purposes, have signed on. I don't have a time frame for that, but it is something that's on the radar. So the code, the building code, in either its provincial form or the national model code, is mandated by the jurisdictions and provinces. You know, but there's also energy efficiency acts. So BC has its Energy Efficiency Act. It was the first province to adopt that. It sets minimum standards for a lot of products sold that essentially consume energy. Windows don't consume energy, but they're a source of heat loss. So in that sense, they're regulated. So when these provinces set these kind of standards or set these regulations, they target or they are responsible for everything that is actually sold in that province. So whether it be new construction or renovation, anything that is sold must meet those minimum requirements. So BC has an Energy Efficiency Act, so does Ontario, it's the Green Energy Act. And there's also a push with this whole market transformation at NRCan to have the balance of the provinces also regulate minimum energy efficiency for windows and for obviously a plethora of other products. So, again, a regulation is an act, it's law. It's something that's also minimum. It sets the bar. So we often say that the national code, or when you buy a code built house, you're buying the worst house you can buy without going, you know, so it's the worst house that you can make without going to jail, essentially. It's, you know, you don't often see in literature from a home builder that, you know, we build a minimum code house. That's just not great marketing. So what we often see is then voluntary programs that are actually geared towards bringing the market up. That's how you transform markets, is by bringing in voluntary programs that set the bar higher, that actually incentivize people through grant programs or tax credits to buy better product than the minimum out there. So, you know, Energy Star is the biggest example. We have Energy Star for new homes, but you have the Energy Star program for appliances or products. And so that's been the most successful program to bring the market forward. That being said, those markets are still voluntary programs. So they're not mandated by law, unless a jurisdiction says that specifically that we, you know, our minimum becomes, you know, the net zero standard or the passive house standard or whatever. The programs themselves are by and large voluntary programs. So those are the differences. The regulation sets minimum standards and the programs drive demand for better products. So windows are a source of heat loss and heat gain in the building envelope. You know, windows lose energy through conduction, convection, and air leakage, but they also gain energy. Through the past few years, Avid Ratings has been conducting a survey for CHBA in which they ask new homeowners what's important to them and what are the must-haves. So in their new homes. And for the past 6 years, large energy efficient windows have made the large windows and energy efficient windows, sorry, have made the top 10 list for new home buyers. So the larger the windows, the wall ratio, the more important having energy efficient windows, because windows are a significant source of heat loss. They're also the biggest opportunity to improve the building envelope, which leads to energy savings and improved comfort. So, you know, and windows are important for obviously winter conditions, but they also drive the HVAC systems and the cooling. So windows and glass options drive much of the cooling needs or the cooling requirements. So again, the larger the windows, which we know are dictated by you know, consumer demand for larger windows, the larger the window, the more important having the right window and with the right glass package is important. If we talk a little bit about window technology and windows, how are they rated? You know, from an energy perspective, there's 4 main ratings, if you will. They're based on the same size window. So all of these, this information that I'm giving you is essentially used to compare one model versus another. It's not the kind of data that can be used in a whole house energy modeling, but it sets the bar for comparing one window model to another. So, you know, when we talk about energy, we talk about U values or U factors, that essentially measures the thermal conductance. The lower the number, the better. And it measures it for, it measures the whole product thermal conductance, not just the center of glass. So while I think our industry is and I would like to think our industry is quite good now at talking about U values in whole product U values, there still are some out there that use center of glass. So if you see COG, which is center of glass, then it's essentially equating it to using insulation. For example, in insulation, you talk about nominal and effective. So the nominal would be the center of glass, the effective is the overall U factor. Same thing with windows. You have the center of glass versus the overall effective U value. So just be wary of what kind of numbers you're being fed and know that there's a difference between the two. Solar heat gain coefficient, it just measures the ability to absorb the sun's rays for winter heating, essentially. So the higher the number, the higher the sun's rays it lets in, the lower the number, the lower the more it keeps the heat out. However, obviously the higher the solar heat gain, the clearer the glass is, the lower the solar heat gain is, the darker the glass is as well. So something to be considered, especially something to be considered when architects are involved. Air leakage is a measure of air transfer through the gaps and of the frame and sash and window seals. In Canada, we measure air infiltration and exfiltration. So we know that air comes through the window, but also air from the outside, but when air also flows out of the window as well. That's something that's different from, let's say, an American window that's only sold in the US. They don't necessarily take exfiltration. They don't take exfiltration. It's a Canadian it's a unique Canadian formula. The energy rating is sort of a balance between U factor, air leakage, and solar heat gain coefficient. It was implemented almost 40 years ago now. And it was meant to let Canadians know how much energy could be gained in winter conditions, for how much energy could be saved or be absorbed by the window through in winter conditions, as I said. So the ER is obviously still quite controversial now. It was always meant for smaller window to wall ratios. It was never made for aquariums. And so these are the kind of things that we need to, we try to teach our people to make sure that, they sell the appropriate window in the appropriate application. So ER is a good measure. It's a balanced number, but it's not for everyone and it's not for every market. So some markets have actually taken ER completely out, and others require ER as an absolute. So it depends. I'll just use Ontario as an example. Ontario has ER in their code, but when you get to a large fenestration to wall ratio, you have to start using performance paths. So I think that's a more balanced approach, and just know that these different measures are available and mean different things. Windows are also tested structurally for air, water infiltration and wind loads, forced entry. Air infiltration, air exfiltration as well. So that's in a nutshell gives you the lowdown on the things that windows are tested on. So now we get into why all these codes and energy, either energy acts or what's driving the demand for more energy efficient products. So it essentially stems from the Paris Accord. In 2016, after having signed the Paris Accord, the federal government came up with the Pan-Canadian Framework for Clean Growth and Climate Change. And so in 2017, the federal and provincial ministers endorsed a market transformation program or strategy to try to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which would essentially help us meet the Paris Accord. Windows were, so windows, water heaters, essentially the low-hanging fruit were targeted as things that could be regulated quite easily in the Canadian market. So what happened was, the government started talking to the industry. This is an initiative, and again, now that's been going on for 3 to 4 years. Part of what I was telling you earlier, the Windows expert team for NRCan is working to try to see how our industry can get to the goals that were set. So the goals that were set at the time were by 2030 for window U values to be 0.82, and that would be like a minimum. That would be the minimum requirement in a regulation of some sort, or even in the code. NRCan started to move with in 2018, announcing that it would change the Energy Star requirements they've been moving every 5 years. So they announced in 2018 that they would move in 2020. 2020 came and went, and the Energy Star has now moved to one zone. The codes are now being, the National Building Code was supposed to have an addition in 2020 because of COVID delays. They will be publishing, it's expected by the end of this year, so 2021. There will be changes that will affect windows and doors. In an attempt to harmonize, as I had mentioned earlier, that is one of the goals of NRC, to try to get harmonization across the country. The national code will have tiers, much like the BC step code, where they will have options to build to a minimum and then get credits if you get for better performance at different levels. So there's also the Energy Efficiency Act and also the Green Energy Act that are going to be changing in 2022 for Ontario. So we can see that the wheel has been set in motion towards getting better performance products in the window industry. So again, climate change and meeting the Paris Accord is what's driving this initiative towards more efficient codes. Those codes then drive the energy requirements for all products sold through regulation in provinces, and so that's where we are. Just maybe recapping, one of the initiatives that we saw was, as I mentioned, we went from 3 zones and 2 different paths with a multiple U and ER path available to one zone in Canada, and an either or scenario. So either you go through the U value path or you go to a minimum ER rating. So this is one of these essentially, this is one of the steps that the government is putting, knowing that Energy Star drives the market forward to help us get to their 2030 objective. We anticipate that by 2025, there will be a new Energy Star criteria, which will, be obviously significantly better than this, so that, again, pushing the market forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Pigeon. And
thank you, Lisa. It's a great job. I'm going to touch base a little bit more on the product side of things. And as part of our JELD-WEN Northern Tri-Paint collection, we offer a complete tri-paint offering across Canada. So for both new construction and renovation alike. And we've spent our time and we've invested in developing tri-paint solutions just based around the fact that they're better performing products. They're easily adaptable to the changing energy codes that Lisa touched base on. And they can meet, and they currently are exceeding some of those government regulations that we've got in place. So if we go to the next slide. So whether you're building a new home or renovating your existing home, the Northern Tri-Paint collection has a wide range of interior and exterior options, basically to fit any install. From exterior colors, brick mold options to interior jam options, you'll be able to find the look homeowners are looking for without sort of sacrificing on the performance side of things. We go to the next screen. One of the more important selections for homeowners when they're going through the process of picking out and selecting new windows and doors is the glazing option. So whether we're looking at dual pane options, triple glazed options, whatever low E you're selecting of the multiple low E's that are available in the market, all of them will have an impact on the performance of the windows and doors. So taking a look at the example, the window that we see on the left is a JELD-WEN dual pane window. Currently it has the low E 180. And on the right side, you'll see a JELD-WEN dual pane window with low E 180 and a Surface 4 I-89 low E. The Surface 4 I-89, if you're not familiar, is an interior coat. It does a great job at boosting the U value numbers. But as you can see in the image, it comes with a higher risk of interior condensation. And taking a look at the graph and the chart below, in comparing in some of the test results, what we're seeing is sort of that Surface 4 low E's and the I-89s have about the same condensation resistance rating as a clear window. So basically, obviously, you know, the U values are important when we're gauging performance of the windows, but shouldn't be the only consideration when looking for new windows and doors. And that's kind of where the home comfort side of things comes in. We go to the next slide. This is an example, and the chart on the left basically it's showing us when temperatures drop outside, having basically a tri-pane window with 2 low E's, as we see in the chart, does a far superior job of keeping the house in that sort of optimal zone for humidity. If you can imagine sort of a homeowner who's just renovated their house or built a new house with new windows and doors, waking up on a cold sort of morning, finding condensation on the interior of their windows, you know, naturally the first thing that they might do is go down and turn off humidity in the house or turn down the humidity in the house. And as we take a look at the graph on the right side, you can see the problem with lowering humidity in the house is it can lead to other issues like bacteria growth, respiratory problems, and not to mention sort of the impact that it has on other materials that are in the home. So, you know, the tri-pane glass option, not only better thermal performance, but does a better job of creating that in-home comfort that homeowners are looking for. We go to the next screen. For those of you that were able to stop by our booth last year at WRLA, we kicked off our Northern Tri-Pane Keep Outside Out national marketing campaign. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at some of the materials, but as part of the campaign, we provided our customers and homeowners with the necessary tools to help sell and understand the benefits of tri-pane glass. You see on the left, we've got supporting literature. We've included some of these products in our national sales promotions. And on the right, you'll see our very own energy efficiency calculator, which allows consumers to test the efficiency of their current windows and visualize the cost benefit of the Northern Tri-Pane collection can deliver. And so to access basically all of these materials, you can stop by and take a look. We've got a dedicated website, keepoutsideout.com. And we'll sort of walk us through on the next slide an example of the energy efficiency calculator, just because you can see how it works. So there we go. So once you get to the website, you'll be prompted. You click on the energy calculator. You'll be prompted with some questions. Basically, you want to select your province, the closest city that you are near, the square footage of your current home that you're renovating, your gas type, so heating, air conditioning, yes or no. Select your existing windows, so the style of windows, the glass option of the existing windows, and then the frame sub-material of the existing windows. Then it moves us to the new windows of what you want to select in your new window style, whether it's dual pane or tri-pane, the low E that you'll be adding to the new windows. And what it does at the end, in this scenario that we just walked through, you can see it's a $237 savings per year. So it kind of helps us and homeowners understand what the benefit is, and then tying in the savings side of things from a dollar and energy efficiency side of things. So if we go to the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about the rebate programs that we see and kind of step us through each of the ones that we see in the marketplace. So we have basically 3 types of rebate programs that we see. Provincial rebates, and these programs vary in each province. They're typically offer a more diversified range of rebates for windows and doors, and usually offered through the utility companies in the province. The federal rebates, which benefit basically all of Canadians. However, they usually are geared towards entire retrofits or new builds following the Energy Star or the R2000 building standards. And sort of the last type of the rebates programs that we see are the non-government rebates, which are rebates provided by independent organizations. So an example would be the Arctic Energy Alliance, who offers incentives for installing energy efficient windows and doors. Go to the next screen. So the good news is on our website, if you remember, keepoutsideout.com, you'll find links to all the available rebate programs that are available. The one we see here is an example, the details here outlining the different tiers of the BC program. If you go to the next slide, the Alberta program, where we receive $100 of the Energy Star certified products and $200 for Energy Star's most qualified products. Or the Manitoba program, where you can choose the prescriptive path, so a little bit more detailed, or you can work with an energy modeler for a more tailored approach under the performance path. So the good news is, as these programs come, more programs come online, or if there's tweaks or updates to these programs, we'll be again sort of updating the website as we go to make sure that you guys have access to the latest information. Again, sort of the website, keepoutsideout.com, will give you access to all the information. Okay.
Okay, so I think we're at the point where we're ready for questions. I don't know if we have questions from Alex.
The chat. Yeah.
Alex or Tatiana.
I'm not seeing any questions as of yet, but if anyone in the participants wants to share their questions, if you have questions.
Give it a minute or two and
otherwise I can play question asker while we wait, I guess.
Go ahead, Alex.
So as we look at the future of Energy Star, we're sort of seeing two pathways, I-89 and Tripane, that both sort of get you there for the moment. I think we're saying that Tripane has some advantages over I-89. In terms of longevity of how long will these be solutions for as we look at the future of Energy Star, can you speak to both I-89 and Tripane? And then going after those two technologies, what are we looking at further down in the roadmap in terms of technology that boosts us to the next level of performance?
Good question. Yeah, so from the technology that we're currently seeing in the marketplace, it's a good question. So from an I-89 perspective, as mentioned, it does a good job of sort of boosting those U values to a certain level, almost getting on par with some of the true Tripane options that are available in the marketplace. You know, it does come with some additional risk to it. And when we see from a home comfort level, the interior condensation side, which is one that we're aware of. So, you know, we've invested our time in terms of taking time and energy into a true Tripane technology, just having that flexibility to sort of reach higher levels of performance. Again, sort of being able to tweak that Tripanes with different low E options will improve the home comfort level again. And then to touch base on some of the technologies, I think when we look at Lisa's Energy Star and sort of the future of where it's taking us, I think it's safe to say from a market or from a manufacturing level anyways, we're still waiting for some of those new technologies that will be able to kind of get us there. We've heard people starting to test different combinations of maybe not only triples, of quads, of But it sort of goes against what Lisa mentioned about sort of larger windows to be able to get to that level. So I think as an industry as a whole, we've got some work to do from a technology side, and working with our suppliers of glass and substrate components, that we can start to take a look and put together a plan to get to some of those targets. I don't know, Lisa, if you want to add?
Yeah, I would add that we have to be careful because, you know, our products are there for, you know, as we install windows for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And so new technology is something that manufacturers are usually very wary of, because, you know, until you have this anything that's proven, we have to, you know, there's new technology. I'll just give you, you know, vacuum glazing was something that was, you know, oh my God, this was the next best thing since sliced bread. It's really, you know, it has been used in commercial applications, essentially in Asia, you know, for the last 20 years, but their conditions aren't necessarily the same as here. And so how do we know that this technology is going to work? Right now, there's also a trade-off between, you know, what the consumer is willing to pay. We see a lot of data on the Energy Star system, or on the Energy Star database, the Canadian database, where you have windows that are really on paper quite miraculous from an energy perspective, but those aren't necessarily windows that can
practical
be no, but they can't even be built, you know, in reality. They're not either the IGs are not readily available, or they're so expensive that it doesn't make the, you know, our philosophy at JELD-WEN is that we need to have, you know, something that the market will bear, and that the market can, you know, if you have to spend, you know, if it's not affordable, because that's one of the, you know, that you have to have an accessible product, but you also have to have affordable product. And so I think that, you know, the tri-pane for JELD-WEN, the tri-pane technology is something that is definitely affordable. We've been making tri-panes for over 30 years.
Yeah.
It's not new technology. It's something that we can be behind. Again, as part of my working group on the Windows Experts team, we had discussions about, we are right now preparing a report for the ministers, that same group there that essentially in 2018 said that Windows need to be better. We're preparing a report for them at the end of February, where you know, we're looking at the 5 A's of market transformation, and looking at it from a manufacturer standpoint and also from a homeowner standpoint. And from a homeowner standpoint, one of the things that came out from the very diverse group that was on the phone, that's in that Windows Experts team, was that, you know, Surface 4 Low E, certainly in not all markets, but in most markets, is not acceptable to consumers, because consumers then have condensation issues. And once you've installed that in the window, it's you know, you can't make an Energy Star window out of it just by changing the glazing. So it's
that's a good point.
Those are all things to consider, essentially.
Jeff, you mentioned in your answer true tri-pane, and I guess related to that, some people might be thinking, hey, can I just take any product that I'm currently buying, regardless of operator, and instead of sticking a dual in it, I'll just stick a triple in it? Why do you need to develop new products?
Yeah, so from you know, what we call sort of the true tri-pane technology is sort of maximizing that airspace in the glass technology, and we do have some scenarios in the market that we call skinnier triples or skinny triples, and typically basically what they are using sort of the overall dimension of your glass unit and just adding a a third piece of glass in there with not maximizing the airspace in between the glass. So when we say sort of the true technology, and I think Lisa is 1 3/8, I think is where we sort of maximize the benefit of the airspace.
Yeah, 1 3/8 is the optimal IG overall dimension.
Yeah, so and that's sort of our target, is so that we're sort of using that and making sure that we're utilizing that airspace to maximize performance. And so it's something to be aware of. I mean, obviously, a lot of manufacturers are manufacturing triple glazed products, and just taking a look at those sort of overall performance numbers and the construction of the unit will give you a little bit more details. Yeah.
I would just add the other thing is that you know, if your window hasn't been designed to accommodate triples, then you're going to run into durability issues and even functioning issues. A lot of manufacturers we're seeing have sliders that are designed for dual pane that have never been designed for tri-pane. And so what happens when you add, you know, essentially a tri-pane adds about 6 pounds a square foot of weight to the sash. So you're adding significant weight. So is your hardware able to withstand it? Will the sashes start to sag? So there's a lot of function issues also that have to
from a design perspective.
Yeah, from a JELD-WEN design perspective, we have always been designing product, you know, to accommodate tri-panes.
Yeah, it's a good point. We spent a lot of time when we released our tri-pane slider last year in sort of the design element and sort of increasing the size of the frame. And again, just as Lisa mentioned, to accommodate the additional size and sash, right, to accommodate the larger larger glass unit. So along came, you know, with that is, and even from an ease of operation side of things, we had to take a look at including a roller system on the bottom of the sash because of the weight, the additional weight. So from that level of just even design element around the ease of operation as we're adding more weight into the product from a glass side of things. So it's it does, the method of just sort of adding a tri-pane glass doesn't always work, and if it's not designed correctly, can lead to other issues down the road for sure.
Perfect. One other piece of technology that people have probably heard of is the gas used to fill the IG unit. Can you address sort of what are the different gases that go into IGs and how do they affect efficiency? And is that a pathway or a technology that people should know about when selecting a window for Energy Star or energy efficiency?
Yeah, and Lisa, you're probably a little bit more familiar with the impact of krypton and maybe some of the other gases. I mean, you know, from a JELD-WEN perspective, we're utilizing argon gas. I think it's from an industry standard, it's probably the most available or used gas to get there.
It's the most available gas, and that's the key. So the optimal airspace, when we talked about an true tri-pane, 1 3/8 total or half-inch airspace, essentially, is the optimal for air argon. There's when you're using krypton and other mixes, gas mixes, you can reduce. So I can't recall what the krypton numbers are, but it's significantly less. That being said, though, it's significantly more money and significantly rarer. So, you know, the part of our challenge is to make sure that our products are affordable, and that's why the true tri-pane technology, which is based on air argon, is what we're really focusing on, so that we have so that we're affordable long term, and that we don't run into supply issues as well. So you can get smaller triples, tri-panes through using krypton, but I'm not sure that those are also readily available. That's the crux of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, Alex.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think if there doesn't seem to be any more questions on the, so Jess, I think.
Thank you so much. I just did a quick sweep in the back app. Your presentation was so good that everyone clearly got everything, totally understood everything. And
Nailed it.
yes, that's how good you guys are. So I just wanted to thank you guys so much for that really informative and interesting presentation. I actually learned a lot. I feel like I may have just got a certificate there at the end of that for the amount of learning.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah. And I wanted to remind everyone that this session has been recorded. We will be posting it on the WRLA website probably later on this afternoon. But I also want to mention that both Jeff and Lisa have profiles in the app. So if you had an additional question for either one of them, you can reach out to them directly. But also you can also find JELD-WEN under the exhibitor section if you wanted to reach out to a rep too and ask any more questions from them. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, JELD-WEN, and we'll get this posted right away.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
very much.
Okay, take care.
For joining.
Bye, guys.
Everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.